Oh my God.
Oh no, I can't
know.
believe it.
Don't cut it. Leave it. Let's
Don't
stare at
don't
him.
leave it.
We'll
Don't
watch
leave
him.
it. Welcome to We're Too Late. You gotta be kidding me.
Is my brain broke or am I just too literary? We think that we could do so much better. How could you mess it up this bad? It's like there's no one else in the room while you write out of your ass. Is my brain broke or am I just too literary? Am I insane, bro, or am I just too literary? Too literary.
Welcome to We're Too Literary, the show where we identify as experts.
But we're not.
As we dive deep into the world of cinema, uncovering plot holes, dissecting character arcs, laughing at the absurdities, and spoiling the shit out of everything you love and hold dear. I'm your host, Kenny.
And I'm Jonathan. And each week, we'll take a critical yet humorous look at both the classics and the latest releases. Whether you're a film fanatic or love a good laugh, join us as we navigate the twists and turns of movie magic gone awry and give you our ideas on how we'd like to do it. Are our brains broke?
Or are we just too literary?
Too literary.
Welcome back, everybody, to another great week
Yes.
of We're Too Literary. I mean, that's what we're here for.
Yes, that's what we're here for. That's the podcast we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. So this week, we are talking about a very imaginative movie. You might say it had a lot of imaginary friends.
Don't make bad puns. Do not make bad puns, Kenny. Fucking can't handle this.
We are talking about If, the movie about imaginary friends.
Yes.
Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. You pick.
A better premise, I think, than Foster's. But it needed to be done better.
Yeah. I mean...
So, full disclosure. I also have a cat in my lap. So, cat, you can say hi.
Hey, hello.
Let's go away.
Bye, Jack.
Sorry. Bye, Jack. So, yes, full disclosure. I have not watched Foster's. I did do some light reading. And yes, it's about kids or imaginary friends who lose their kids, essentially, and then try and get adopted by new kids, correct? I mean, that's like the premise of the house. The story is Mac has to go visit his imaginary friend every day, or the imaginary friend's going to get adopted out. Blue.
Yeah. That sums it up.
I mean, broad fucking strokes, I'm sure.
Right, and instead, instead of a orphanage, it's a retirement home,
which to me makes more sense. But also the crucial premise of the movie is, at first it's like, oh, let's adopt out, the imaginary friends, the ifs, as they do like to say, to new kids, which would be little Fosters, and then like halfway through they switch it up, and it's like, oh, we'll reconnect you to your original kids.
Right.
I liked that more. To me, I connected better with that. Because it's the idea of not wanting to lose a piece of yourself or giving a piece of you to someone else instead of allowing them to have their own unique thing.
Sure.
Yeah. Like, it's like, oh, I don't get to make up my own imaginary friend. Somebody else is giving me theirs.
Yeah, that does. The point of the imagination is to have come up with it yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so,
correct.
To take somebody else's made up idea and call it your own or adopt it, feels a little, I guess if they have feelings and emotions, you're doing a nice thing, right?
Sure.
But otherwise, does that sound like I don't have imagination?
It kind of does.
Yeah, it does.
I'm ruining Foster's for everybody. I do apologize. I've heard it was good. I never watched it, but I heard it was good.
For the show that it is, it's fun. It's just a good fun time. And not it's one of those shows where there's what's not to love, right? So yeah. And if you haven't already figured it out, we're talking about If, John Krasinski's If. And the fact that this is written and directed by one of my favorites, he's just one of my favorite people, but like also one of my favorite characters in a TV show, Jim from The Office, because I'm an Office guy. I love that show so much.
How many times have you watched it, Kenny?
Not gonna talk about it.
Ooh.
It's on repeat for me yearly at least. So anyway, the fact that it's written and directed by John Krasinski is awesome. I appreciate, honestly, the direction of this movie was really good. The artistic style of a lot of the shots were really, it was a nice movie to look at.
It was well done. Of the last couple movies we've done, it's probably one I've enjoyed the most.
Yeah.
Definitely better than Madam Web and Borderlands. But that bar was set fucking
pretty low.
Just low.
Yeah, can't tell that wound's still not quite healed.
No, they'll never be healed. It's just going to fester and ooze and weep.
I mean, what can you do?
Lancet, amputated.
You just gotta. You watched it. You move on, right?
Fair enough.
But yeah, this was very enjoyable. I had a lot of fun, just kind of like experiencing it. Being in a comedy in ways, it was just a nice chuckling movie. It wasn't any hearty laughs until, at least for me, the very end, but we'll get to that. The majority of the jokes were just they were just like fun, haha,
I agree. I mean, some smiles, like a light tittering.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And otherwise, like getting into the story of it, it's this cute movie about a girl who's going through a difficult time, and suddenly she starts to see everyone's imaginary friends that have been left behind as their real life friends have grown up. Very
fucking rude.
Yeah. Let's start here. Did you have an imaginary friend when you were a kid?
I don't remember having an imaginary kid. Sorry. I don't imagine having an imaginary friend.
Yeah, that was good.
Freudian slip there.
Yep.
I was the imaginary kid.
I did. And it's weird to describe because it's like, I don't know that I ever really had a name. It was just that I saw a person. Like I could imagine the person.
Yeah.
And they were just kind of, I don't know, similar to myself, I guess, in some ways, kind of like another brother. But I never really forgot about it, right? I just, after a while, it wasn't like I was going around inviting it into because people, when you grow up, they start to look at you like you might be crazy or something if you do a little bit.
I'm not even sure it's about growing up. I'm sure at like 8 years old, you see that one kid talking to himself on the playground. Having a full-on conversation. You're just like, something might not be right.
It could worry you. Anyway, just the fact that, kind of thinking about the idea of forgetting about your imaginary friends, and I'm sure for a lot of people this probably did stir up memories of their times with imaginary friends, which is cool because in a way, the whole idea here was that you bring the joy of them back into your heart. That was kind of the deal with how in the movie, once they actually started to have moments of connection again, they started to glow this bright red, and their heart specifically started to turn into lava. And it was pretty cool. Red and orange veiny lava almost. And just it was cute. It was fun. It was a lot of really great voice acting. There was
It had
there
a
was
substantial cast.
They really did. Yeah. It just makes you imagine he's friends with, probably all of these people in some way. But yeah, so for Blue, it was Steve Carell, and that was really great because
a nice little reunion.
Yeah, exactly. A nice little reunion of Jim and Michael. And just hearing Steve actually do a character voice that was not Gru, it was more like himself than anything else. I really enjoyed that. It was just kind of, I don't know, fun. Then the teddy bear was Lou Gossett Jr.
Yes.
Which he's just nice voice. I don't know if he did a ton of voice acting, but
don't know, but I do believe he passed away.
He did. There was a nice little message at the end of the movie where they paid tribute to him. Yeah, he actually passed away just earlier this year, back in March. But it was nice to hear him in the movie. There was a lot of really great casts. Fiona Shaw was the grandmother. Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Waller-Bridge, who was the daughter of Indy in the Indiana Jones movie we just watched. And then there was just a whole bunch of a lot of the imaginary friends ended up being voiced by just a crazy cast list. I'm just
because it was just one-offs.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. You have Bradley Cooper. I remember him as the Cup of Ice.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is the saddest fucking imaginary friend ever.
He was just thirsty.
Thirsty son of a bitch.
He was just thirsty, man.
Yeah.
Imagine being thirsty all the time enough that you make a glass of water your imaginary friend.
No. I'm sorry. I feel bad for that kid.
A little bit. So I'll run through them real quick. Aquafina was the bubble. Emily Blunt was the unicorn. George Clooney was Spaceman. Like you said, Bradley Cooper was ice. Matt Damon was the flower. Bill Hader was the banana. That one was obvious. The moment he started talking, it was like, that's Bill Hader. Keegan-Michael Key was the slime. There was a couple of them in here that I'm going to mention that were listed for the character, but I don't remember them saying anything. That would be Blake Lively as Octopus. It was in the art room scene where you see a cat and also had octopus legs.
Yeah, it was a cat wearing the octopus.
Yeah, that was Blake Lively. But I don't remember her saying anything.
Agreed.
Sam Rockwell was the guardian dog. Maya Rudolph was the alligator. Amy Schumer was the gummy bear. Jon Stewart was the robot. And the other character that I'm pretty sure didn't say anything was Keith, who was played by Brad Pitt. Keith was the invisible imaginary friend.
So Brad Pitt loves playing an invisible character. Keith does technically have one line. And I think it's the second time that he gets tripped over. It may have been the first time, but he giggles.
If that's the case, then that's pretty great.
Yeah. That's the only time he talks.
Yeah. And there were even a few more.
There was definitely some plenty of big actors that were just right there for nice little cameos. doing friends favors.
Yeah,
Which is
and
great.
it was fun. All those
It was
different
a lot of
characters
fun.
were fun.
I mean,
Uh,
as a whole, the movie I found a lot of fun. And a few areas that were definitely lacking, a few ideas that just weren't solid, but overall
yeah,
enjoyable. And apparently based upon Krasinski's kids and like
yeah,
ideas they had had.
their imaginary friends as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
their imaginary friends. Although I don't know that he actually like disclosed that information. I watched a few different interviews with John talking about the movie, and apparently both of their imaginary friends are actually in the movie. I didn't find in my research that Krasinski actually said which characters they were. I think he kept that part of it private. But yeah, apparently the ideas of the imaginary friends of his kids were put in the movie, which was cool. And yeah, there was also some ideas that they had given him that made it into the movie as well. But again, I don't know that they actually said which ones.
Couldn't really find out what ideas specifically they were.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. When I was looking for
maybe
it,
we're just really fucking bad at Googling. Not sure, but yeah, I looked into it as well and couldn't find anything like concrete where it was like, oh yeah, they contributed, you know, the carnival scene where it was kind of like flashback and filled out, or
right?
the teddy bears. There's just nothing solid.
Yeah.
Overall, as a recap on it, I mean, it's a fun, family friendly movie. That little cookie cutter. A lot of things you kind of see from the beginning. I mean, but you also have to remember, like, it's probably meant for families. So there are supposed to be kids watching who won't pick up on some of the things that the adults would. Like watching the opening scene, I'm like,
Mhm.
oh yeah, that bitch is gonna die.
See, I wasn't sure if either of them made it actually. I was
And that's fair. I felt that it'd be a little too much to kill both parents, but it definitely knew the mom was gonna die. I mean, the first
damn.
10 minutes is just montage of the daughter having fun and stuff while you watch the mom just get sicker and sicker and go through chemo and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was pretty clear that it was headed one direction.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
it's a good setup. You have to keep it.
yeah, well, I mean, and it explains the additional level of kind of the peril that comes emotionally, right? So B is a 12-year-old girl. Her mom died. Her dad happens to be still around, but she's going to move in with her grandmother while her dad stays at the hospital for what we assume is heart surgery based on the mention of him having a broken heart.
Broken
He
heart.
reveals
Yeah.
the shirt,
It's like-
right? Yeah, and it's got a little crack in it.
Yeah.
And so from there, it just kind of leads into the emotional journey, I guess, of this girl as she navigates like not what she really comes across as like wanting to seem Vulcan-esque with I don't want emotions, right?
Okay.
And
I mean, I love it, but I would argue she just wants to be an adult. I mean, she like watched her mom die. Her dad's going through some serious stuff, and he's too playful. Like nearly everything out of his mouth is a joke throughout the whole movie.
Oh
For
yeah.
all like 10 minutes he's in the movie.
The whole time I felt like John's character as the dad was very much just reminding everybody that you don't have to let your kidness aspect of yourself go, right? You could still have a little bit of kid inside.
Yes.
That makes you feel young again, right? And it was very, the whole time. I don't think there was a single moment where there wasn't a bit of a joke in hand there. And so we go through kind of the aspects of her dealing with her emotions, wanting to be an adult, and also apparently just having free roam of New York.
Yes. I thought that was very weird. That a
Very
12-year-old is just like, Go do whatever you want to do. Oh, 2 in the morning? It's
And
fine.
at no point did Grandma ever say anything about it. Not
No,
once.
no,
Not once. The whole movie, she was just, I guess, oblivious to the fact that she even left the apartment.
nope.
Right?
She's like, oh, fuck, you're gone.
I
Don't do
don't
that.
know. It was so weird. But she makes her way around town, and the night that the imaginary friend starts was at night, and she was outside alone at night in New York. All right, moving on from that, but I just want to point out how like just crazy that part seems. Um, she starts chasing down the imaginary friends, and from there, it very rapidly picks up into we meet Cal, who's played by Ryan Reynolds, and he can also see the imaginary friends, and then begins a journey of her deciding B deciding that she's going to become a matchmaker of imaginary friends and help Cal out with helping him match those that don't have kids anymore.
But adopt them out.
Wow, it really did just kind of like accelerate the plot a lot in that moment, where it just kind of went from 0 to 60 in just a few minutes, right?
Oh, yeah,
That's crazy. That moved quick. So
it did. I mean, and which is good. The movie does not want to spend a lot of time in the setup. It's not meant to. The whole point is the imagination. It's the ifs. It's the interplay between them all and what they mean to their lost kids.
well, yeah. And like you'd said earlier about the fact that giving an imaginary friend to somebody who didn't imagine that friend it seems kind of odd, right? If you think about
Yeah.
it, that was also kind of the message that this whole story told, because by the end of the movie, we start to see that, people are only able to imagine their own friends. You can't match an imaginary friend to a new friend. And that's actually where, during this whole matchmaking shenanigans that she's going on, the day part of all of this. God, did she ever sleep? I mean, yeah, I think there was a couple of points where she woke up over
Correct.
something, but like I swear
But-
she just didn't sleep otherwise.
No. Because she was up till like 4 in the morning wandering New York unsupervised.
She had Cal.
Unsupervised.
Oh yeah. So during the daytime, she's going to the hospital and she's visiting her dad, but she's also visiting this kid that she runs across, this little kid named Benjamin. And eventually it leads to Benjamin being one of the kids that she's trying to match up these imaginary friends with. And so we go to the imaginary friends retirement home, which is inside of or underneath a carousel in the carnival. Goes down a little spiral staircase, right? We get to go through this nice imaginarium, basically. Like it's just this fun space of eventually we meet the bear that is voiced by Lou Gossett Jr. and him and B have a moment together. They make all this imagination happen. She takes control. We get a little bit more backstory on Cal. Apparently he used to be a clown, which, by the way, at this point, if you haven't figured it out, he's an imaginary friend too.
Oh my God.
Oh no, I can't
know.
believe it.
I know. Fucking shocking.
Like,
I will admit,
wow.
I think you said you knew from the beginning, or at least they were pretty close. I didn't pick up on it or didn't just think about it till I think the first time he goes outside is when he goes in the little girl's room to get Blue.
Yep.
The second time I remember going outside is when they go to deliver croissants to, what is it, Bobby Moynihan? Is that how you say his name?
Yes.
And I was like, nobody's interacting with him. Nobody seems to make eye contact, and he doesn't seem to interact with the world. And I was like, oh, fuck. He's an imaginary friend.
Yeah, exactly. So we spoke about this just briefly beforehand, and I had said that I immediately recognized that he was an imaginary friend. And I'm thinking about it a little bit again. The moment that I think I realized that Cal was an imaginary friend was actually when they were in that first house with the little girl, and Blue sneezed and he actually like kind of tumbled backwards. And when the girl woke up and looked over, he was gone. And I was like, okay, this makes sense. And then they showed him under the bed. And I was like, this makes less sense. However, he would have made a ton of noise rolling over all those toys. So I'm still convinced right then and there.
Yeah, but I'm still so confused. Like, the rules of the world, can he interact with shit or not? Why did it matter?
Well, and
But I guess you want him to tiptoe because otherwise it gives it away. That leads me to my other issue with that scene. Blue doesn't have a fucking nose. There is no nose.
He doesn't have a nose, and yet he sneezes
Multiple
3 full
times.
something like that. Yeah, it's crazy. But that was the moment that I realized that Cal was an imaginary friend, and what I wasn't quite sure of, but it actually turned around at one point. He has a dialogue with B where she's saying that she's an adult, and he's like, "Well, then that's that." And then later on, she says, "But I'm a kid," and he's like, "Well, then that's that." And I was like, that language feels
Very odd.
yeah, it feels like you're saying something because you're like, I'm still angry about it, because he's clearly she remembered him in some capacity, but not enough to realize it was him. And so he was bitter still. At least that's how it kind of came across to me. But we move on. She starts introducing the imaginary friends that she met at the retirement home to Benjamin, and he can't see any of them at no point.
Yep.
And he also doesn't interact directly with Cal during any of that.
Correct.
He doesn't. And so as we, kind of progress through, I think the story kind of makes itself into that we are just trying to let you know that, you got to remember your imaginary friends. You got to bring it back yourself. You can't just take on somebody else's. And the only thing that, of course, the rules here have already been broken across the board, period. She can see all of them.
Yeah. When Cal is presented as another human who can see him, it's like, okay, there's some rules here. We'll figure it out. We'll make this work. But no, Cal's fake. It's just her, but she can fucking see everyone. What? Like, what? Why?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why is she special? I mean,
she's the chosen one.
I guess.
She's
I
cracked
don't want to say
the imaginary matrix.
It just felt superfluous and very weird.
Yeah.
Like a couple other choices.
Yeah. Yeah. So to wrap up the summary and start to tell you all about what we do a little different here, it pretty much goes from there to more visits to the hospital, to her dad finally having the surgery, but a moment of great fear that she comes home to her grandma, and her grandma's like, your dad, I'm sure everything's fine, but we got to go. And it's just like, what happened?
Yeah.
And I guess
does not need to be
what
like that.
happened was that he wasn't waking up yet. Like, that's the only thing that you can really assume from it, because she tells him the story. Like, she finally decides to be a kid. She tells her dad a story while he's, in the rester. I don't know what the hospital
vampire?
bed.
The hospital bed. Like vampire.
Yeah. So she tells him the story, and then he, wakes up enough to be like, that was a great story. Can you tell me, more? And then she goes and tells everybody that he's awake. And so that's kind of like, the good news is he's there. And then she goes to thank Cal, and the weird lady from upstairs that just kind of kept appearing.
The evil lady in the corner.
Somebody's out there knocking on the door really hard. She's like, who the hell's out there knocking on the door? Oh, it's that kid again. Right. But she tells B that nobody ever lived in the apartment that she kept finding Cal in. And then somehow, from a moment of like lapsing, that she can't see the imaginary friends anymore, because there was just like this weird moment after her moment with her dad that she does that. And she loses the ability for just a minute, but then her dad sets her up to knock over a box, and that box has a a little drawing of her and her mom and her dad, and folded over off to the side was
this
Al the
cow.
clown.
Yeah.
He was a
I
clown. He
don't
was a
think her
friggin' clown.
dad set it up so the box would fall. That just seems a little
I don't know.
iffy.
It seems like he was orchestrating all of this, because at one point he was like, she said something, and then he's like, well, I guess we still have a chance. And I was like, he's the mastermind behind all of this. And it's probably because, he wrote it.
Yes. He wrote and
I guess he
directed
was
it.
orchestrating it.
Yes.
But yeah, at that point, they come back together, like imaginary friends are coming back to their kids. The people are remembering. I honestly thought it was a nice moment when the grandmother was like, hey, Blossom, you want to come inside? And she was like, the fuck? You can see me? Yes, please.
Super pumped. Let's make it happen.
That's where John Krasinski fit his one F-word expletive into a PG movie. No, that didn't happen. I'm just kidding.
Oh, I was going to believe you. I was like,
know.
I don't remember that. When did this happen?
So yeah, and then all the kids, kind of get to rekindle their time with their imaginary friends, and Benjamin gets his own imaginary friend, which was a dragon with a doctor's, the reflective round thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's the movie. It was a good movie, honestly.
It was fun. I
recommend
enjoyed it.
Yeah, I definitely recommend it. But
I wouldn't go in expecting like top tier entertainment, but for a cheap like Saturday price, it's fucking worth it. It was fun. It was enjoyable. It told a good story. It had some spots that we would do differently, but that's easy enough.
Yeah, and let's get into that. Let's get into the gray here.
Do it. Let's do it.
What do you got?
Oh, what do I got? So I would start by probably a little bit better defining some of the rules. So you start with having B and Cal, they can see all the imaginary friends and they're going to help place them. And then Cal turns out to be B's imaginary friend, which, like I said, you picked up on it from the beginning. I picked up on it from the croissant delivery about midway through the movie, maybe 3/4.
Because the dude just wasn't noticing him, right? It was like,
correct. Nobody was noticing him. Nobody was interacting with him. It was just a 12-year-old. And why are they just letting a 12-year-old bring croissants to an office building and hang out in the lobby? Like, why?
It was really odd. It was a very odd moment.
Agreed. It was very odd.
It was wholesome with the guy and Blue, touching him on his shoulder. I appreciated that they didn't actually have like a dialogue there, because if they had, it would have been a little weird. For him to just be like reassuring though was perfect. I thought that was great, but to do so right outside a corporate office for a meeting. Also, she sent, like you said, rules matter here. She sent Cal and Blue after him to keep an eye on where he was going so that she could find them. I'm failed to see how that works.
Yeah. I don't know.
They're both imaginary. Anyway, yeah, so rules would be good, so honestly.
Yeah, better structure, more rules, so that way we can understand and follow along. Like, why does this one girl get to see every imaginary friend?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it doesn't need to be explained. That's over-explaining.
Chosen one story, man.
But just like, I mean,
I know I
could have worked around it a bit. I mean, maybe I probably I would bring the dad. Like, he's such a playful kid. Like, he never lost that kid. So maybe it's like a little bit of a family thing that
like
they
journeying together on it.
Yeah, they can just, it runs in the family. They can see imaginary friends. Like, maybe make it the mom was the one who kind of passed her gift on. But maybe I'm just a fucking pedantic stick in the mud. But then it feels like there has to be a reason for why there's this gift, and like, no, we're thinking too hard. It's a fun kids movie about imaginary friends and not, or it's okay to grow up, but hold on to that inner child. It's important.
Yeah.
I think it's a good lesson.
Honestly, and that kind of fits in a little bit with what I was thinking about changing up a little bit too, and that is that I would have added a little bit more seriousness to it all, because the amount of playful that her dad was while in the hospital and everything was fine, but we never really understood, other than the fact that he was regularly staying at the hospital day after day. I wasn't fully sure what was going on. Like, it didn't look like he was dealing with a cancer or anything. And so of course the broken heart was the only clue that we got. And I just would have explained that. Like, I would have brought in the impact, the emotional impact. I would have tried to make you care just a bit more than the daily visits.
Well, and like, if the idea is the movie is from the perspective of a 12-year-old, yes, you're not going to tell the 12-year-old you're going in for, triple bypass surgery where they're going to replace a valve with a pig valve or something.
Right.
They're going to probably do more kids appropriate terms, but I think they should have done that. So we can kind of understand the gravity of the situation and not, yeah, he was in the hospital, and from the beginning, I'm like, okay, he's going to be fine. They're not going to kill both parents like this.
It
Mom
would be
will
dark
dead
even
in
for him.
Yeah. So I was fully expecting him to make it and live through it. And he did. So not surprising. But I think we could have done a little bit better. So there was that fear of, is he going to make it? Because it just brings tension to the story.
It makes you more concerned than just the one moment.
Agreed. I don't think, and then like one moment, he was ever serious throughout the entire fucking movie. It was constantly one joke after another with him.
Yeah. He was constantly playful, and I think that was just kind of an emphasis on the whole, like, he doesn't want to ever let his inner child die, right? But
okay,
maybe he just completely masks his pain with comedy.
And maybe that's it. We probably needed at least another scene, or at least another like minute or so we could delve into that and kind of figure that out.
Yeah.
As it stands, I would wager he's not the best father. Like, yeah, his daughter's loved, but emotionally stunted because her dad just constantly makes jokes about fucking everything. Never takes anything serious.
Think about all the interactions with the grandmother.
Yeah.
She came across as not knowing what to do about kids either. She very strongly came across like she just didn't know. And I was like, are you a little bit afraid of your own grandchild? Like, because you just never interacted with her or something? I don't know. You don't seem to know what kids want. And yeah, I can understand there being a little bit of a gap there, but at the same time, you're kind of the figure that's supposed to be taking care of her and making sure that she feels positive about the outcome of her dad. And so, yeah, I would have, there would have definitely been some more serious tones that I would have taken with it, just to give a little bit more of the emotional impact. And I think, I probably would have expanded upon the imagination further than necessarily just having a amusement park filled with them, So
Agreed.
Yeah. But otherwise, like, I think it's just like little details. It's not anything major. Because foundationally the story was still just good. It was just a fun time. And I gotta hand it to John, like, him coming out and writing a bunch of stuff these days and also directing it, show off. It's still pretty dope. He's been coming up with some good stuff. It's kind of like how Jordan Peele has just like come out with some of the best spooky movies we've seen in a good while.
Oh,
Assuming you're a fan, but
definitely.
All right, buddy. Well, with that being said, do you have anything else?
No, I mean, because overall, yeah, I really enjoyed the movie. Like, it's not a lot of broad strokes to be, or not a lot of like major changes. It's just some more broad, general stuff. I think
Yeah.
would have just signed it up. Like, it's a solid. If we have to give a rating, I'd give it a solid like 8, 7
Yeah.
or 8. I really enjoyed it. I think it could have just been better. Some of the dialogue was a little weird with the fucking kids. Just a
Yeah.
little too. This was written by a 40-year-old man.
Yeah.
His words are now coming out of your mouth.
The way, yeah, some of the things that she said just made her feel way smarter than she should be for her age, almost. But at the same time, I know there are definitely kids out there that are that smart. So I would honestly put it in the same, ballpark there. I'd at least like bare minimum a 7. And for the sake of just telling everybody, the current rating on the movie Dex is a 6.5. So people may be a little more critical than us. I don't know.
Maybe.
But yeah.
Definitely worth a watch.
Yeah. Worth a watch for sure.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Take your kids, let them enjoy the antics, and then go home and, I don't know. I had that thought. Like, I had this thought of like getting some pool noodles to stick into your recliner to like bat you on either side of the head. I'm just like, where the fuck did that idea come from?
I don't know.
I don't know where that
great.
came from.
That was great.
Oh my God. Jesus Christ.
Or you could just kick it on your couch and watch it on Paramount Plus.
Yes.
Not sponsored. Oh, last little thing. Last one little detail.
Oh, we got a sponsor?
Forgot. No sponsor.
Damn it.
The one last little detail from the movie that was great that I forgot about is that John Krasinski played the voice of the marshmallow. The melting marshmallow.
That's creepy. You're creepy with the eye that just
the eye that yeah. So anyway, well, I think that about does it then. All right then. Well, thank you all for joining us this week on another episode of We're Too Literary.
If you haven't already checked out If, give it a watch, then come back and leave us a comment. Let us know if you agree with our changes, if you think we're way off base and it's perfect as is, or if you got some ideas of your own that you'd just like to share.
And don't forget, you can find us on all the major podcast platforms and right here on YouTube. If you're listening in, please give our show a rating. And if you're watching, don't forget to like and subscribe.
We truly appreciate you being here with us, exploring these films and listening to us share our takes.
Thank you so much for tuning in to We're Too Literary this week. I've been your host, Kenny.
And I'm Jonathan.
We'll see you next time.
Bye now.